Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a well known and respected author with a deep understanding of Hindu scriptures from San Francisco, USA, Priya Arora. Priya, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Ashutosh.
Priya is an author of a book titled Rama, a Man of Dharma, and Life is a Battlefield. The central theme of her writing is ancient wisdom from modern times. So, Priya, my first question for you. You studied English literature at Oxford and built a successful career in banking and technology in the United States.
Mhm.
What first sparked your shift towards Vedic philosophy and spiritual writing?
Actually, it happened quite by chance.
Hmm.
I was invited by a friend to attend a lecture at Berkeley at the Ramakrishna Mission,
Hmm.
and that was a lecture on the Bhagavad Gita. And I went there with absolutely no expectation,
Hmm.
of what this was. I just went for for the fun of it, literally.
Hmm.
And I was amazed by that lecture because I realized that the Bhagavad Gita is not a religious text.
Correct.
It is actually about mind management, and that's what struck me about it. And it's about something that is universal,
Hmm.
universally, something that everybody, no matter where they're from in the world,
Correct.
could benefit from. And
Absolutely.
that's what jump started my journey, actually.
Hmm.
And then I went into, studying more about it. I went deeply into it, and here I am.
Fantastic. Fantastic. There's so much knowledge in our scriptures, and I'm sure you're just beginning your journey.
Yes.
Priya, many people read spiritual text in translation, and
Mm-hmm.
yet you're one of the few people I know who was motivated to learn Sanskrit to study the original resources. What was the
Mm-hmm.
motivation behind this?
So, I started with translations. The first thing I did actually after that lecture that I just mentioned is I went on Amazon and ordered a bunch of translations
Hmm.
and I started reading them. And to be honest, they didn't really affect me or they did not influence me greatly.
Hmm.
I read them, I enjoyed them, but that was it.
Hmm.
They were not life-changing, let's put it that way.
Right.
But then I started listening to lectures, and by that time YouTube had started, and a lot of the swamis, from Ramakrishna Mission, especially Swami Sarvapriyananda,
Yeah.
started putting his talks on
Hmm.
YouTube.
Yeah.
And I started with that. And in Vedanta, Shravanam, which is listening, is the first step to knowledge.
Correct.
So that was my introduction. And then I realized as I went into this is that, you have to know the language of a text to
Hmm.
really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Because a lot is lost in translation, no matter which language it is. Let me
Correct.
tell you, it could
Yeah.
be any language. There
Yeah.
is a loss that happens in translation. But in Sanskrit, the loss is huge.
Hmm.
It's actually huge. We don't
Correct.
realize it
Yeah.
because Sanskrit is more than just a language used for communication.
Hmm.
It actually is, it's an expression of our entire civilizational ethos.
Hmm.
I mean, that's the best way
Yeah.
I can put
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
so I felt the need to learn the language, and I cannot tell you the difference it made.
Hmm.
When I read now the Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit, understanding the language, you relate to it so much better.
Absolutely right. Very well said. Priya, your writing philosophy centers on the idea of ancient wisdom from modern times.
Mhm,
What does this phrase truly mean to you?
mhm. So, everything that we go through today, our ancestors from time immemorial have gone through already.
Correct.
We don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
Our circumstances may be different.
Hmm.
You and I are talking like on this call from thousands of miles away,
Yeah.
and that might have been different then. But the human situation has not changed.
Absolutely.
So, there is a wisdom in our ancient texts,
Hmm.
especially in Vedanta, which is
Hmm.
the Upanishads, which the Bhagavad Gita is a summary of, which help you navigate challenges in life. And the
Correct.
challenges are the same.
Yeah. Very well
So, yeah,
said.
that's
Very well
my.
said. Let's come to one of your books now. You describe Ram as a timeless model of ethical leadership.
Mhm,
What qualities make Ram such a powerful role model even
mhm,
today?
mhm. So, the thing about Rama was that he had almost every good quality you can think of. He was
Correct.
Gunavan.
Correct.
So he was like the sum and substance of virtue.
Hmm.
But mostly where that comes from
Hmm.
is his adherence to Dharma.
Hmm.
So he never stepped out of the boundaries of Dharma.
Hmm.
Now, that is very difficult to do,
Hmm.
actually,
Hmm.
because the definition of dharma is not religion.
Hmm.
Dharma is defined as the right thing to do in the circumstances,
Hmm.
considering the larger good, the
Correct.
good of the many,
Hmm.
not your personal good, but
Yeah.
the larger good.
Hmm.
Now, to do that every single time is difficult
Hmm.
because oftentimes our personal good comes into conflict with the larger good.
Hmm.
And it's very tempting. In fact,
Hmm.
most often we choose what's good for us, not
Absolutely.
what's good for the many.
Hmm.
But Dharma says the opposite, that
Hmm.
you should sacrifice the self for the many.
Hmm.
So Sri Rama's greatness was
Hmm.
that there was never an instance when he put himself above the general good.
Well said. Well said. Great response. How can the concept of dharma guide individuals in making difficult moral decisions today?
So, you see, the good thing about dharma is
Hmm.
it's not morality.
Hmm.
And I make this distinction because, see, morality is a variable factor.
Hmm.
Morality varies by generation, it
Hmm.
varies by location, it varies by people. You
Hmm.
just see what was moral 200 years ago
Hmm.
may not be moral today.
Yeah.
What's moral today was maybe not moral 200
Hmm.
years before. It may not be moral 200 years in the future.
Hmm.
But dharma is a constant.
Hmm.
So, because dharma is the right thing to do,
Correct.
and right action, considering the larger good, is never out of style,
Hmm.
no matter where you are in the world.
Right.
See, it is your moral compass. It
Hmm.
is the compass that shows you north,
Hmm.
it points you north.
Correct. Correct.
So, dharma can help you today as much as it helped yesterday, as much as it will in the future.
Hmm. Amazing. The Ramayana also emphasizes values such as loyalty, humility, and selflessness.
Mhm.
Why, in your view, do these values remain essential in contemporary society today?
See, because they are essential for people living in a society.
Hmm.
You cannot have a society with each person doing whatever they want for themselves.
Yeah.
See, we consider actually freedom. If you think about what is freedom, freedom is
Hmm.
not doing whatever you want whenever you want,
Hmm.
because your freedom cannot impact somebody else's freedom.
Right.
So when you live in a society, there are certain values that have to be maintained in
Hmm.
order for that society to be a thriving society.
Hmm.
And that's why our ancient shastras put such importance on the on individual mind management, because if you are a healthy individuals contribute to a healthy society. Simple
Absolutely.
as that.
Well said. Well said. What role does sacrifice play in Ram's journey, and how should we interpret sacrifice in modern life?
Unfortunately, modern life has become very materialistic and each one to his own.
Correct.
That is really the truth of it.
Yeah.
Everybody looks, it's become more and more me and mine,
Hmm.
which is the opposite of what our Shastras teach us. Because the whole focus in the Shastras
Hmm.
is to move away from uh, this inward, go inward, but don't get focused on the temporary
Hmm.
here and now, which is
Hmm.
what we are focused on.
Hmm.
And it is a difficult thing in
Hmm.
today's world,
Hmm.
which is why one has to be aware of it. See,
Right.
awareness is what is important. What you're aware of, you will correct.
Correct.
Most of us, and I'm speaking for myself, before I went into this,
Hmm.
down this path,
Hmm.
I was busy with regular life. I
Yep.
was not thinking of anything spiritual. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, I need to get a good job. I need to lead a good life. I need to have a comfortable, family life. All, the
Correct.
usual things
Absolutely
that,
right.
that people chase.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Let's now talk about Arjun and Mahabharat for the next few
Okay.
questions. Arjun's confusion on the battlefield mirrors
Mhm.
the dilemmas many people face today in our lives. What are the most common Arjun moments in modern life?
See, actually, you're right. Each one of us, we are Arjun.
Correct.
We are. And standing on the battlefield, what was his dilemma? The first thing we have to see is what was his dilemma was not when he decided to put down his Gandiva and he said that, listen, I cannot fight. He says, Na yotsya iti govindam, I cannot fight.
Hmm.
What drove him to say that? A Yodha, a
Hmm.
Maharathi like Arjuna saying that.
Hmm.
So what it was not fear,
Hmm.
it was attachment.
Correct.
He was so he saw his Bhishma Pitama, his grandfather.
Hmm.
He saw his guru Dronacharya,
Hmm.
and he felt that tie of attachment. And when we feel that tie of attachment, it
Hmm.
clouds our judgment.
Absolutely.
You see, then we cannot do our duty, which is
Hmm.
actually why, if you look at it in a very simple example, a doctor, a surgeon can never operate on his own child,
True.
will not. Reason is attachment.
Correct.
See, because whenever there's that just shows that attachment clouds judgment.
Hmm.
So that is the biggest lesson is when in today's life, can we do our duty in whatever field
Hmm.
free of that attachment?
Hmm.
That is a big challenge.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. And you've pulled out, almost the key to the entire theme of why he puts down the Gandhi because of the attachment. Very well said. Priya, one of the themes you highlight is the power of focus.
Mhm.
How does the Gita help us manage distractions in an age dominated by technology and information overload?
There again, I'm sorry to say, but our society today it's not really conducive to excellence
Hmm.
because you cannot achieve excellence with a
Hmm.
scattered mind.
Hmm.
Now, if you open multiple windows, so to speak, literally and
Hmm.
figuratively,
Hmm. Hmm.
you may get many tasks done in record time.
Yeah.
But will you do each one with
Hmm.
excellence?
Hmm.
No,
Hmm.
it's not possible. So today we have said that excellence doesn't matter so much
Hmm.
as speed.
Hmm.
For us today, the speed of the turnaround is more important than excellence in the job.
Hmm.
Now that's a mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We have to think about it.
Absolutely.
And the society encourages it because
Hmm.
you can get by.
Hmm.
By being mediocre, you can get by.
Correct.
So we're not really striving for excellence.
Hmm. Hmm. Great response.
But
Great
yeah.
response. Uh,
Go
moving
ahead.
on, moving on,
Yeah.
Priya, Krishna emphasizes performing action without attachment to result, which is the famous
Mhm.
Karm uh, theory that the whole world talks about now.
Right?
How can modern professionals apply this principle in a very competitive environment?
Mhm. So, this principle, and the one you're talking about is the line karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana.
Mm,
This is a very valuable lesson,
mm,
and it's got nothing to do with not being concerned about the results. You
mm,
must have a goal.
mm,
You must work towards a goal. It doesn't say don't have goals. Don't work. What it says is
mm.
don't stress about what you cannot control.
Correct.
Because if you look at the line, it says karmani eva adhikar, which
Mm,
means You only have control, adhikar, in
Mm,
this context, control
mm,
over your effort.
mm.
You have zero control over the result.
Absolutely.
Therefore, focus on what you can control. In other words, control the controllables.
Mm,
The moment you change your mindset to take it off the end result and focus on what's within your power to do,
mm,
you have reduced anxiety
mm.
because you've developed agency. From
Absolutely.
that, you have agency in your action.
Mm.
And from agency comes confidence. So I give an
Perfect.
example.
Yeah, please.
If you want to climb a mountain
Mm,
and you're at the bottom of the mountain, or say even a quarter up it,
mm,
if you're constantly thinking of the summit,
mm,
you're going to get yourself stressed out.
mm.
But if instead of that, it's not that you don't want to achieve the summit. Of course you do. But your focus has to be on your next step,
Correct.
which is what is in your control.
Mm.
The summit will come. But right now, what do you have within your control?
Yeah,
Your next step.
very well said. Well said.
So, yeah, that's what it is.
Moving on, Priya, anxiety and stress are very widespread today.
Mhm.
What teachings from the Gita offer practical tools to cope with anxiety and stress?
So, one of them is this, which I just mentioned,
Yeah,
and that is focus on what is within your power to do.
true.
And another very powerful tool
Mm,
is to look at your blessings.
mm,
Gratitude is something that is so powerful in mind management, and
mm,
we don't really realize that.
mm,
In my own case, I have a son with special needs, and it was a great source of anxiety for me for many years.
mm,
And then I had a battle with cancer. That was another source of anxiety. But the point is
mm,
that, you know, uh, none of all these things really were within my control.
mm,
What was in my control was to handle each day the best I could.
mm.
And more than that, even, is to be grateful for what I had.
Absolutely.
The moment you say to yourself, okay, this is not going well in my life,
Mm,
no one wants to, what happens to one's children affect one very deeply.
mm.
And it did affect me, especially as a mother. I would say it hurt in the tummy,
Correct.
this whole thing. But when you have gratitude for everything else, I
Mm,
thought, my goodness, I have so many other things in life for which I should be grateful.
absolutely.
And that sense of gratitude helps.
Mm, absolutely. And, uh, the fact that you're talking about gratitude and about so many other things that you have in life, that's something I have seen which is very unique to a lot of the teachings of the scriptures, which are Indic scriptures.
Yes.
But you're absolutely right. Priya, both the Gita and the Ramayana explore the idea of duty.
Hmm.
How do these texts complement each other in teaching us about Dharma?
So the idea of Sanatana Dharma actually is exactly that.
Yeah.
Um, Sanatana because it is everlasting, and Dharma because, as I mentioned, it's the right thing to do.
Mm,
So this is actually not just the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Gita, it
mm,
is every single Shastra.
mm,
The purpose of the Shastras is to teach us Dharma.
correct.
And dharma is not something that you can tell somebody what to do. In
Mm,
fact, there's an interesting episode in the Mahabharata where Yudhishthira, when Bhishma Pitama is on the bed of arrows,
mm,
and Yudhishthira goes to him to learn lessons in Raj Dharma,
mm.
because he wants to learn how to govern.
Yeah.
And he asks him, he says, can you tell me what action constitutes dharma so
Mm,
that I can, follow that? And you know what he says? He says, I can't tell you
mm,
because dharma is not a one size fits all, it's
mm.
context based.
Correct.
So it changes. But if your moral compass is right,
Mm,
then you will do what is right.
mm.
So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's what it is. They're all the texts,
Great,
the
great story
Gita
you've
and
told
the
me. Yes.
Ramayana.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
Sri Rama is the model of dharma. In fact,
Correct.
his enemy, who is Maricha, gives him that com. He says,
Yeah.
Ramo Vigrahan Dharma, which
Mm.
means Rama is the embodiment of Dharma.
Dharma.
You can't
Absolutely.
get a better endorsement than from your enemy.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. How do our ancient texts help individuals balance success, ethics, and inner peace?
We come back to this to actually the same uh, basic ethics of being dharmic.
Mm.
Because when you do dharma is the basis of it all.
Mm.
I know it sounds repetitive, but it is. Uh, if you are a dharmic person,
Mm.
then you stay grounded. You and that is a big lesson in the shastras about
Mm.
not getting arrogant when things go well.
Mm.
Learn that humility
Mm.
when things go well. Learn that this is temporary.
Correct.
And when things go badly, learn that is also temporary. So don't get despondent.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that balance,
Mm.
maintaining that balance,
Mm.
is a very primary lesson in the Shastras.
Very interesting. Priya, I have time for two more questions.
Sure.
You were just telling me that you have personally faced a lot of your own life challenges, including your illness and a special needs child. How did the teachings of the Gita and the Ramayana support you through your experiences?
Well, they made a huge difference
Mm.
because, and luckily, I would say the cancer especially happened after I had started this journey.
Mm.
So it was like, they say that, when you have a headache, you take a paracetamol and it dulls the headache, it
Mm.
or makes it go away.
Yeah.
So these teachings for me were like a paracetamol, to
Mm.
be honest.
Mm.
You know, when you absorb them,
Yeah.
you handle all the stress without suffering.
Very interesting.
So it's not that you don't go. I mean, anybody who's been through chemotherapy
Yeah.
and radiation and the whole lot will tell you that it's awful.
Mm.
But with the right mindset, you handle it without suffering.
Mm. Mm.
You go through it, it's not pleasant, but
Yes.
you don't suffer.
Absolutely. You get the inner
That's how
strength.
it helps. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my last question for you, Priya. If you had to leave our viewers and listeners with one message about the relevance of India's ancient wisdom for modern life, what would it be?
So the message that I would like to leave listeners with is there's a lot in there.
Hmm.
Sadly today we are distanced from our ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking from personal experience of having known nothing about it at all.
Hmm.
And I feel that we should not wait till, the age of 50
Hmm.
to start delving into what is there. It's
Yeah.
a treasure. It's a
Absolutely.
treasure that we have.
Yeah.
And we should definitely be learning this when we are children so that it can help us for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely. Well said. And on that note, Priya, I just want to say what a fascinating conversation this has been. I'm personally a great believer in all our Indic scriptures, all our Hindu scriptures, and the way you brought out a few thoughts that I could talk about today were really powerful, and I'm sure will give a lot of thoughts to our young viewers and listeners. We just barely managed to scratch the surface in about your books today and about the scriptures, and I'm sure there would be opportunities to talk again to you about so much more in depth about so many different aspects of it. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the brand called You Videocast and Podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.